Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
January 27, 2020, the No Morals edition. First up, from the New York Times op-ed editorial board piece, certainly in the no morals category, the editorial board asks, can Western firms stop profiting from poor nations' corruption? Of course, it's about Isabel de Santos becoming the richest woman in Africa, literally on the back of stealing the money from the country which her father was the prime minister of for 30 years. And the Western companies that helped facilitate this theft, or alleged theft, I should probably say. Of course, PwC is right now the most prominent, and their global chairman is, quote, shocked and disappointed, end quote, much like Inspector Renault, who is shocked that corruption and gambling was going on at Rick. So when the when the New York Times op-ed board weighs in about lack of morals, you know it is something. And let's just take up the lead story today, which comes to us from the Financial Times, and it was an interview given by Alex Burlakoff. He was the former head of sales of Insys, the U.S. pharmaceutical company who engaged in massive corruption around the drugs contributing to the opioid scandal. It was corrupt payments to boost sales of Subsys, a painkilling spray containing fentanyl. He admitted that he had zero morals when it came to getting people addicted to opioids. He did not have morals, ethics, or values, and he did his job knowing the scheme orchestrated by the CEO of the company was illegal. Mr. Burlakoff got 26 months in jail, and the CEO of the company, John Kupor, got 5 years. So it's good that they finally got this, but you have to wonder, how do you keep these sociopaths out of leadership positions? Next up, ArmorAll, which was once heralded as the next Nike, has been hurt by slumping sales and even worse about its corporate culture. It's under a very large accounting scandal, which may cause it to have to restate financial statements. But the culture of the company has been just decimated by things like strip club visits, expense on corporate cards, obviously investigations into the accounting practices, and the general culture of the CEO have really driven down the value of this once darling of Wall Street. So it just goes to show that, as Jay Rosen continually reminds us, culture is everything, and if you have a toxic culture at the highest levels of the company, it's going to permeate throughout the company. And finally, a very interesting story about corruption. This comes to us from the Financial Times out of Zimbabwe, as it accuses the Chinese contractors of actually currency manipulation to drive down the Zimbabwe dollar so that it will cost more for Zimbabwe to purchase goods and services in China's Belt and Roads program. It's an interesting story because of the use of currency manipulation around bribery and corruption. So this is something that I think compliance officers need to be cognizant of, that currency manipulation, certainly in country, can be impacted or affected by in-country sales representatives when you have a currency as volatile as that of Zimbabwe. So interesting story, and yet another way that corruption can occur. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening.